Hello everybody, welcome to our ASKA survival guide. So today we are talking about terraforming. 'Cause it's kind of useful for this game. It's not exactly like there's a lot of flat areas. You usually have to make them. So there's various terraforming tools that ASKA has given us, and they might give us some more in the future. This is kind of all really kind of basic terraforming features, so we'll have to see if they expand on these. But basically, if you want to start, making your village a little bit, cleaner with, nice flat land, or if you're running into some troubles where you're trying to build something, but it's like, it's too bumpy, we need some flat land, this might help you out. So if we go to our build menu and head over to the terraforming section, we'll see that we have currently anyway 3 different terraforming tools. There's the terrain level field tool, the Pathmaker tool, and the road planner tool. And for the most part, most of these you just really need really just like any kind of hoe to make these. And you might not have these immediately unlocked. I know you have to build a certain kind of structure. I can't remember off of my head, unfortunately. But for the road planner, at least, we know that we need the workshop hut to unlock this. I think these are either like the Eye of Odin, or you got to put a shelter down, or something basic like that, just basic production buildings or something to unlock these. But first, let's go ahead into the terrain level field, mostly because this is probably the one that you guys would be using the most, just to kind of make your area nice and flat and easy to build on. So you can kind of see that I've already used this over here just to kind of build this nice flat area where I can just put all of my construction structures, my buildings, and stuff like that. You can definitely tell where I have and have not used it. But basically, how we go about using this, I'll go right over here where I have this kind of test area. The idea here is that basically you have 2 points that you have to make. So if I go back into here, we'll quick so guys can see here, we're gonna build. So you can see this is kind of like what it looks like, and you can rotate it if you want, but that doesn't really, it's not that useful, I would say. But basically, what you're really looking to do here is with your mouse, you're gonna left click anywhere where you want the height to be set. So this is like kind of like your starting height, if you will. So make sure that if this is like, let's say this is the height that I want the rest of this area to be at, I would click right there, and then I would just expand to like the whole area that I want to be raised up or lowered depending on what you're doing. And when I'm satisfied, that is when you left click again, and that's going to set the area, which is what we have going on right over here. Now once you have set the area that you want to be lowered or raised depending on what you're doing, you're going to need your wooden hoe, because that's what you're going to use to level it. So basically at this point, we're just going to press the E key and we are leveling. And what you'll see, granted this area right here is kind of flat already, but what you'll see is that as we're kind of going back here, all this terrain is going to be flat and level based on that first kind of row that we made, which was basically right here. This was the first point, and then over here was the end point. So you can see this is all nice and flat right now. So if it was like, if I was gonna be really like high up, let's just see if we can quick find a hill actually, so we can see this a little bit easier. I think this is a slight little, this is a slight little hill to it. So let's quick show you guys again here. So we're going to be going a little bit lower, because that's a little bit higher over there. The tree's in the way, so we're just gonna have to kind of do what we got to do here. There we go. It's gonna be very small, unfortunately. Obviously, you would clear the area so that you can level this. Otherwise, it's just gonna get mad at you. Alright, so you can kind of see, there we go, that's a little bit easier to see that way. You can see this is my first point, it's lower than down here, so this has lowered that part of the terrain to match my first point right over here. So that's kind of basically how you go about it. So, the point here is like, if you have a building and you can't build because it's saying, this area is not flat enough, this terrain tool is very helpful for, unlocking that, allowing you to flatten your base area and do what you gotta do. Now, the other terrain tool is the Pathmaker, which basically is a tool used to flatten out terrain, but it also basically builds in a pathway. And your villagers will use these pathways, but instead of just like, running out themselves. So we'll do a quick little path out here. Let's get out of here and open up this gate before somebody closes it anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and grab our path, and we're just going to say this is the beginning of the path, and we'll just kind of lead it out here for now. So we'll go ahead and place that point. Oh, it's yelling at me. Why didn't you? Oh, it's not going to let me go through the gate. That's right. All right, just outside the gate. There we go. Just so you guys know, outside the gate. There we are. There we are. And we'll just confirm that. That's great. And then once, much like our terrain tool, we're going to use our wooden hoe to basically flatten this. And I like this because, as you can see, it's clearing away all this brush as well. Thanks, bud. And now we have this nice little path, and you can see again, it has flattened the area. You can see some of the terrain here is kind of, you know, it's being lowered, so we have like these ridges here. But basically now my villagers will take this path out, and, you know, if you extend it beyond, they're going to follow the path rather than just, you know, just walking through the grass. So it's a way to kind of help them become a little bit more efficient, you know, especially if you're using these paths to connect, you know, from, you know, cabin to eating area, or to, you know, the various production buildings that you have, to your warehouse or whatever. It's just going to make them a little bit faster. So, and the great thing about the path is that you don't need any additional resources to make it. You just got to use your hoe to flatten the area. Now, that is not the case with the road planner, which we have right here. You can see, obviously, like I said before, to unlock this, you'll need the workshop hut. You got to create that, build it, and then this gets unlocked. And basically, this is the same thing as the path, except that it, instead of like this dirt path, it's going to make a stone road. And it does take, you know, 3 stone per section. So it's not like if this was the whole thing, this would not be 3 stone. It would be like 3 stone per square. So if I just quick show you guys what I'm talking about here. So you can see how there's like a square there and a square there and a square there. Each of those 3 squares is going to be 3 stones. So this would basically be actually 9 stones to make this actual road. So it does kind of eat into your, it's going to eat into your stone. So make sure you guys have like a lot of stone if you want to start making the roads, basically. And the only real difference between them and the path that I've seen is that obviously the road looks a little bit nicer, looks a little bit more like civilized, basically. You guys have like a real good, you know, foundation here. You got some infrastructure going on, and that's kind of how that is. And but it behaves exactly the same way as the dirt path. It just looks nicer, basically. Now you might be wondering, okay, why do I want to like do all this terraforming? And there's a few advantages. The first, obviously, is that it is easier to build just in general. While this game isn't quite as finicky when it comes to like placing foundations, it has its moments. You might find that like, there's like this, for whatever reason, there's this one spot that like the building that you want to put down just refuses to go down because it's like either something's in the way, or in most cases it's just not as level as it needs to be. Well, by using the terrain tool, you are then able to, you know, flatten that out, and you can very easily build what you need to build. And it's just a little bit nicer too if you have, you know, some more flatter areas. Not everything has to be flat. Like, for example, I've kind of gone flat and organic just because I like to keep a little bit of just the natural kind of flow of the world. But, you know, you can use it to, at the very least, to make, you know, your bigger structures, like, you know, like your cottage or something, just to make it a little bit cleaner looking. Now, besides that, some buildings obviously also just require flat land, like your farm, for example. You can run into a few problems when you're making your farms if you don't have flat land. So again, you just really easily, you make some flat land, your farm's ready to go, it's done, you can start using that building. And then additionally, roads, they actually can make your villagers go a little bit faster. I think if I recall, they don't eat into your stamina as much. Or they just, you know, they just like move a little bit faster as well. And like I said, they will follow this over. You were right up there, sir. They will follow this versus, hello there, versus, you know, just running all nilly-willy. So it's a good way to kind of choose their paths for them, so you can, you know, make them as efficient as possible of it just being like, hey guys, just, you know, follow this path, there you go. You know, don't have to think too hard now. So it just kind of like makes them a little bit more efficient as well. Now that said, there are a few kind of like extra tips here. First is to definitely watch out for tall height differences when you are making your terraforming. For example, over here, this has all been terraformed, obviously upwards, but this is too tall for me to continue to terraform, so I cannot expand further that way. So there is like a height difference that you have to be a little wary of, just because if it goes too tall, you won't be able to continue to terraform. So kind of keep an eye on that. There is a cap for the height difference. Aside from that, roads can look a little wonky too, especially like if I was going to build a road here, it would it's super cut like into this, because it's down there. So the roads can get a little, like the sides of it, like literally the sides, they can get very, very steep, which can be okay if it's kind of like that rough hewn kind of look that you're going for. But if you want cleaner lines or just something that looks a little bit cleaner, just be careful with your infrastructure planning, because the roads can look a little wonky, in my opinion, when you have those kind of bigger height differences that you're trying to cut alongside a hill or something, for example. So just kind of be aware of that. But that is how you can use the terrain terraforming tools to just make your base a little bit easier to build on, as well as a little bit easier to navigate, and all the other kind of benefits that you can get from that. So if you do have questions about how to use these tools, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, keep surviving and keep thriving.